The reason I drilled down on cost per ticket and customer satisfaction is because those two metrics together are known as the foundation metrics. Cost per ticket is a measure of efficiency. Customer satisfaction is a measure of effectiveness. So when you run your own benchmarks, you can learn a lot about how you're performing just by looking at those two metrics by themselves. Now, this is a very data-rich slide, and you're not going to be able to absorb it all in the 2 or 3 minutes that I've got it up here, and I'm going to show you a similar slide for the service desk momentarily. But rest assured, you will have an opportunity to look at this as long as you want to. At the conclusion of the webcast, we are going to make available a PDF of today's presentation. So for those of you who want to study this and take a look at it and think about it and ponder it, you will have that opportunity. But as I mentioned, cost per ticket and customer satisfaction, the two foundation metrics, they are driven respectively by utilization because this is a labor-intensive function. Utilization is what drives your cost. What drives customer satisfaction in a desktop support environment are a couple of things. One of them is your mean time to resolve. You can see we've got some service levels down here. Mean time to resolve incidents, 7.3 business hours. Mean time to fulfill service requests, 2.7 days. The other big driver of customer satisfaction is your incident first visit resolution rate, meaning that for incidents, a particular type of ticket, how often do you resolve on the first contact with the customer or the first touch to the device? Number worldwide is about 85.5%. So those are your big drivers of customer satisfaction. In a moment or a little bit later in this presentation, I'm going to show you a cause and effect diagram that connects all these KPIs and gives you a way of thinking about the linkage between these key performance indicators so that you can understand which KPIs drive which other KPIs. And that puts a great deal of power in your hands because it gives you insight into what levers you can pull to achieve desired outcomes. Okay, I've just flipped slides, although it may not look like it, and we're now looking at the results from our 2015 service desk benchmarks. We've got our 6 categories of metrics listed down the left. We've got the key performance indicators in the second column from the left. Once again, we have statistics. We have the averages, minimum, median, and maximum. If we look at the cost per inbound contact, globally the number was about $20. If we look at customer satisfaction, globally the number was about 78%. Well, that's interesting because the customer satisfaction, if we go back here and look at desktop support worldwide, averaged 84.6%. For the service desk, customer satisfaction averaged 77.8%. I believe the difference is not because service desk or level 1 support is inherently less effective than desktop support, but I believe that there's something about the personal contact that you have in desktop support when a technician shows up, when a technician is doing the troubleshooting right there desk side, that creates a level of empathy, if you will, and that tends to drive customer satisfaction scores a little bit higher. But it is noteworthy that the average customer satisfaction score for the service desk benchmarks we conducted was significantly lower than the average customer satisfaction score for the desktop support benchmarks that we conducted. Once again, we got a lot of data shown on this page. This is really kind of a summary of the global benchmarking statistics for service desk and desktop support. Once again, rest assured that you will have an opportunity to take a look at these, spend as much time on these pages as you want to when we distribute the PDF of today's presentation. Now, what I want to do is talk in a little bit more detail about the desktop support benchmarks. Here are the nearly 30 key performance indicators that we used in our desktop support benchmark, but there is an 80-20 rule when it comes to desktop support key performance indicators. You've probably heard this referred to as less is more. And when it comes to KPIs for both the service desk and desktop support, less really is more. The metrics that really matter, the metrics that give you 80% of the story are cost per ticket, that's your primary measure of efficiency, customer satisfaction, your primary measure of effectiveness. Remember, efficiency, effectiveness, kind of the two foundation metrics. Utilization, the big driver of cost per ticket, first contact resolution rate, and mean time to resolve, your 2 key drivers of customer satisfaction. We then have a TCO, total cost of ownership metric, which is percent resolved level 1 capable. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a few slides and talk about percent resolved level 1 capable. Actually, I'll save that for later. I may be introducing it a little bit too soon, but I'll define it very quickly here. It is the percentage of tickets resolved by desktop support that could and should have been resolved at level 1. So let's just say for the sake of the argument that desktop support handles 1,000 tickets a month. If we had some way of knowing how many of those could have been resolved at level 1, let's just say that it was 200 of them, then your percent resolved level 1 capable is 20%. 200 tickets divided by 1,000 total, 20%, 200 of those tickets out of 1,000 could have and should have been resolved at level 1. Why is this important? Well, because if we go back here and we look at the cost of resolution at level 1, globally it was $20. Cost of resolution at desktop support globally was $67. So if you're resolving tickets at desktop support that could and should have been resolved at level 1, you're incurring additional costs. These are expensive defects. So percent resolved level 1 capable is a measure of total cost of ownership. The lower this number is, the better. Ideally, you want it to be 0. I've yet to see that in my career. Generally, a really, really good number is about 5%, meaning that even those organizations that are performing at a high level are going to have about 5% of their tickets at desktop support resolvable at level 1. Final metric on the short list of those that really matters is technician job satisfaction. Why? Well, this is a bellwether metric. It has an impact on just about every other key performance indicator in service and support. High levels of technician job satisfaction are positively correlated with high levels of customer satisfaction, and they are counter-correlated with absenteeism, turnover, handle time, and cost, meaning that the higher the job satisfaction goes, the lower the handle time, the lower the cost, the lower the absenteeism, and the lower the turnover. If you've been in this industry for very long at all, you know that turnover is a big issue, and so it behooves every organization to take steps to try and minimize that turnover, because on average it costs about $15,000 to replace a desktop support technician when they leave and walk out the door. On average, a service desk technician is about $12,000, because you got to find them, you got to recruit them, you got to screen them, you got to train them, and then it takes them a while before they become fully productive. And so turnover is at epidemic levels, particularly in the service desk. It's less of a problem in desktop support. The key point here is by monitoring technician job satisfaction, you can have an impact on that job satisfaction and hence have an impact on all of those other metrics I just mentioned, including customer satisfaction, absenteeism, turnover, and cost per ticket. So let's put this together, and what we have is a cause and effect diagram. We've got our foundation metrics at the top, cost per ticket, customer satisfaction. The metrics in red are the ones on our short list from the prior page. And we can look at our build here. Technician utilization is a big driver of cost. First contact resolution rate and service levels are the key driver of customer satisfaction. Technician satisfaction drives both absenteeism and turnover, as well as customer satisfaction. And percent resolved level 1 capable, remember that was our TCO metric. This is how they are interconnected. This is how they are interrelated. There is a linkage, and anytime one metric moves, the whole linkage moves. It's critical to understand this because key performance indicators are very powerful. Too often they are used simply to track and trend performance, but when they are used in order to effect positive change, you can drive positive performance within your organization. You can reduce your utilization and hence increase your utilization and hence reduce your cost per ticket. You can sometimes back off on service levels if it's not necessary to have aggressive service levels, get to a higher utilization and a lower cost per ticket. You can improve customer satisfaction by improving your first contact resolution rate and by improving your service levels and by improving your technician job satisfaction. So this cause and effect diagram is really powerful. If you take anything away from today's presentation, it's this, that the KPIs, there's an 80-20 rule, less is more, and they are interconnected and interrelated. And if you understand this linkage, you're going to see much better performance levels out of your service and support organization in the future. Now, another way I can put these metrics, these desktop support metrics, is into this following paradigm. We have macro measures which tell a story. These are things like cost per contact or cost per ticket and customer satisfaction. We have the underlying drivers of those macro measures. These are things like your productivity, your service levels, your technician and ticket handling metrics. And then we've got what are called causal factors. The only thing you have direct control over on this page are the underlying drivers. You can't directly impact cost and quality. You can only impact the underlying drivers of cost and quality. You can impact productivity and hence get lower costs. You can impact your service levels and your ticket handling metrics and hence get higher quality. So your drivers are where you have the most impact. The causal factors are sometimes called workload metrics. They're driven by a whole host of things, including the volume and mix of work performed by service and support. You don't have a lot of control over these. They're a function of your environment. And let me elaborate on this because we get asked almost every day a question like this. We have 2,500 end users. How many desktop support techs do we need? Well, I don't know. I've seen environments where you need a desktop support tech for every 50 end users. I've also seen environments where you only need one desktop support tech for every 1,000 end users. That's a 20-to-1 difference, 1 to 50 versus 1 to 1,000. Huge difference between those two. Well, here's why. The device count and mix will impact the headcount needs and the workload and hence the headcount. The mix of desktop and laptop computers. Everyone knows that laptops require more care and feeding than desktops. the number of mobile devices, the age of the devices, and your refresh cycle, the extent to which you have standardized or locked down your environment or virtualized your environment, your population density. If you're serving a high-rise population, your travel time per ticket is low. If you're serving a campus or field environment, your travel time per ticket is quite high. Where the users work will impact all of this, and so there is no such thing as the right ratio of technicians to end users. It just doesn't work that way. What you should care about is the workload, because if you understand the workload, the volume of tickets, and the work time and travel time per ticket, then you can size your desktop support function accurately. But it has almost nothing to do with the end user population. There is no magic ratio. If you understand the workload, though, you can size your desktop support organization appropriately. Let's look at the trends. Cost per ticket from 2010 to 2015 has come down by almost 40%. Customer satisfaction's gone up by 4.1%. Again, 2010 this row, 2015 this row. I picked out some important metrics here. Incident first visit resolution rate has improved. Every metric has improved except technician job satisfaction, which has roughly remained flat. What this says is that organizations are getting better at delivering desktop support. All the metrics prove this. All the metrics say this. And this is a very positive trend. It shows that most service and support organizations recognize the strategic potential of IT service and support, and they are investing accordingly. And over the last 5 years, the quality of service, the cost of that service has gone down, the quality of that service has gone up, the cycle times have improved. Almost everything has improved in desktop support over the last 5 years. This is a good sign for those that work in service and support because it shows that IT organizations worldwide are taking service and support much more seriously. They recognize that there's inherent leverage here, and they're starting to catch on to that and exploit that leverage. I'm going to show you a little bit later what that leverage is. Let's turn first to our service desk results. Here are the KPIs that we use in the service desk benchmark. Once again, the 80-20 rule applies. We have our foundation metrics of cost per contact and customer satisfaction, driven respectively by agent utilization and first contact resolution rate. First level resolution rate is our TCO metric, and then we have agent job satisfaction for the same reason we had it with desktop support. It's a bellwether metric. It tells us a lot about the health of the organization. If we put it all together, we have a similar cause and effect diagram. The metrics in red represent the ones that are on the short list of the key performance indicators that really matter. But once again, understanding this linkage, understanding how these metrics are connected and interconnected and interrelated is a very powerful concept because this can help you identify if you're trying to drive a higher quality customer experience, what do you focus on? Look at FCR, look at job satisfaction. If you're trying to reduce costs, what do you focus on? Agent utilization and secondarily, your service levels. Two metrics that I've mentioned already, first level resolution rate and percent resolved level 1 capable. I defined this second metric for you. This first metric I have not yet defined, but it is different than first contact resolution. It is the number of tickets resolved at level 1, which is the service desk, sometimes called the help desk, divided by all tickets that can potentially be resolved at level 1. This is important. You wouldn't include a hardware break fix in the denominator because that can't be resolved at level 1. But things like software, how-to, software break fix, oftentimes those can be resolved at level 1. Now, many people assume that 1 minus the first level resolution rate is going to equal your percent resolved level 1 capable, but that's not the case, and let me explain why. Let's say we have 2,000 tickets being handled each month by the level 1 support organization, and let's say 400 of those tickets get pushed out to desktop support that could have been resolved at level 1. Okay, so we've got an 80%, let's see, 400 out of 2,000, we've got an 80% first level resolution rate because we're resolving 1,600 out of 2,000 tickets at first level. 400 of those get pushed out to desktop support that could have and should have been resolved at level 1. So our first level resolution rate is 80%. But let's say at desktop support we only handle 1,000 tickets a month. Well, we've got 400 tickets being pushed from level 1 that could have been resolved at level 1. 400 divided by 1,000 is 40%. So because the denominators differ, in other words, the workload, the number of tickets at level 1 and desktop support are different, it does not necessarily follow that 1 minus the FLR equals the percent resolved level 1 capable. It just doesn't work that way. In the example that I just gave you, we're going to have 400 tickets out of 1,000 being resolved at desktop support. That's a 40% resolved level 1 capable, and that's not an unusual number, sadly. The industry average is about 20%. A really good number, as I mentioned earlier, is about 5%. But these two TCO metrics are important metrics to understand. I belabor this a little bit only because most organizations don't pay enough attention to them, but there's oftentimes a lot of economic value to be gained here through shift left, get it done at level 1, as it's sometimes called.